Iraq, beneath the ruins of forgotten cities, archaeologists unearthed a library of broken clay tablets. Etched into these fragments was a story so old it predates the Bible, the myths of Greece, and the sagas of the Norsemen. It is the first epic, the first time a human being wrote down the story of what it means to be human. This is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Our story begins in Uruk, the great walled city of ancient Sumer. And Uruk had a king, Gilgamesh. He was not an ordinary man. The tablets say he was 2/3 god and 1/3 mortal. He was stronger, faster, and more handsome than any other. He was a builder of great walls, a leader in battle. But he was also a tyrant. He walked through his city like a wild bull, taking what he wanted. He slept with brides on their wedding nights before their husbands could. His power was so absolute and his arrogance so vast that his own people cried out to the gods for relief. But they did not seek to destroy Gilgamesh. They sought to balance him. On the plains outside the city, the goddess Uruk fashioned a new being from clay, a wild man as strong as Gilgamesh. His name was Enkidu. He lived with the beasts of the wilderness. He was covered in hair, his strength was immense, and he knew nothing of civilization. He was pure nature, the perfect counterpoint to Gilgamesh's tyrannical order. When Gilgamesh heard of this wild man, he sent a tempest to tame him. She taught Enkidu the ways of civilization. He ate bread, drank wine, and for the first time saw himself as a man. And when he learned of Gilgamesh's tyranny, he was filled with rage and traveled to Uruk to challenge the king. Their battle was the clash of titans. They grappled in the city square, their strength shaking the very temples. But in the end, neither could defeat the other. Exhausted, they collapsed. And in that moment of mutual respect for each other's power, and a love was born. Not a romantic love, but a bond of brotherhood so profound it became the heart of the entire epic. Enkidu, the man created to stop a tyrant, had instead become his other half. With their energies now united, they sought a quest worthy of their power. They decided to journey to the great cedar forest, to slay the monstrous guardian, Humbaba, and to bring back priceless timber for the city of Uruk. It was a journey of immense peril, but together they were invincible. And returned to Uruk as heroes, their names to be praised for all time. But glory has a price. The goddess of love and war, Ishtar, saw the magnificent Gilgamesh and desired him. She offered him marriage, but Gilgamesh, in his pride, refused her with cruel, insulting words. Enraged, Ishtar went to the heavens and demanded that the gods unleash the bull of heaven to destroy Uruk. The bull descended, its snorts opening chasms in the earth. But Gilgamesh and Enkidu fought together, and with Enkidu, the divine beast, they had now killed two of the gods' servants. They had become too powerful, too arrogant, and the gods in their council delivered a terrible judgment. A victory against heaven cannot go unpunished. One of the two friends had to die, and they chose Enkidu. Enkidu was struck with a wasting sickness. For 12 days he lay in agony, his wild strength draining away. He had terrible dreams of the underworld, a house of dust, darkness, eating clay. And Gilgamesh, the mighty king, the god-man, could do nothing but sit by his friend's side and watch him fade. When Enkidu finally died, Gilgamesh's roar of grief was said to have been heard across the land. He refused to believe it. For 7 days and 7 nights, he would not allow his friend to be buried, watching, hoping for a sign of life, until the texts say a single maggot fell from Enkidu's nostril, and in that tiny, horrifying moment of decay mattered. He was not just confronted with the loss of his friend, he was confronted with the truth of his own future. If Enkidu could die, then he, Gilgamesh, could also die. The king who had everything was now consumed by the one thing he could not defeat, his own mortality. A terrifying fear seized him. He cast off his royal robes, dressed himself in the skins of animals, and abandoned his city. He began a new quest, a desperate, mad journey to the ends of the earth. He would find the only death. Utnapishtim, the survivor of the great flood, who had been granted immortality by the gods. His journey was a passage through hell itself. He crossed a mountain range guarded by scorpion men, whose gaze was death. He walked for 12 leagues through a tunnel of absolute, suffocating darkness. He finally emerged into a garden of gemstone trees, and came to the edge of the waters of death, which no mortal could cross. But his will was unbreakable. He found the ferryman and threw sheer way across. Finally, he stood before Utnapishtim. He demanded the secret of eternal life. Utnapishtim then told him the story of the great flood, a story that predates the tale of Noah by 1,000 years. How the gods destroyed the world and how he alone was saved. But he told Gilgamesh that his immortality was a unique gift. It could not be earned. To prove his point, he challenged Gilgamesh to a simple test: stay awake for 7 days. Gilgamesh, exhausted by his impossible journey, fell into a deep sleep. He had failed. Seeing his despair, Utnapishtim's wife took pity on him. She told him of a secret. At the bottom of the ocean, there grew a plant, a thorny flower that could restore the youth to an old man. It was not immortality, but it was a second chance at life. Gilgamesh tied stones to his feet, sank to the bottom of the sea, and found the plant. He had it. He had the cure for old age. His journey back was filled with hope. He decided he would not use it first, but would take it back to Uruk to share it with the old men of his city. One night, he stopped to bathe in a cool pool of water, leaving the precious plant on the bank. And while he bathed, a serpent slithered out, attracted by the flower's scent. The snake ate the plant, and as it did, it shed its old skin and was reborn. Gilgamesh watched it happen, and he wept. It was all for nothing. The universe had given him the prize, and then, through a moment of simple carelessness, he had faced gods and monsters, but was defeated by a snake. He returned to Uruk empty-handed. But as he approached his city, he looked up, and he saw the great, magnificent walls that he had built. The walls that protected his people. The walls that would outlast him. And in that moment, he finally understood. Man cannot live forever. But what a man builds, the stories he leaves behind, the family he raises, the civilization he contributes to, that kid searched for eternal life, but had instead found the meaning of being human. And so he returned to his throne, and ruled his city as a wise and just king, until his own time came. And he had his story, his great journey, carved into stone, so that it, at least, would become immortal.